I was wondering when Star Wars and or Marvel was gonna, or Disney would make its way into this episode.
I have decided at some point I will explain this. But I can't decide.
Do you not remember deciding that recently as well?
Yeah, but I can't decide whether I'm going to do it like on air or if I should just write a blog post at some point.
Or just go live on Facebook and be like, hey guys, so it's about time you know.
That's funny. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Then it's technically content for people to be like, hey, I know you're probably here listening to ghost stories or whatever, but I'm just going to tell you about this instead.
Anyway, we'll move away from that.
Yeah, we can move. Let's move on to the other big naked hairy man that we've all come to know and love on this program.
Allegedly naked. There's no real proof.
Are you telling me that you think Bigfoot is out there wearing shorts?
Maybe like a G-string.
That's even worse.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyway, please continue.
When you're going through a bunch of branches and bushes, you got to keep the stuff in a safe spot.
Yeah, that's true. Write that down, everyone listening at home.
Keep
the stuff in a safe spot.
I assume that's what that whole show, Naked and Afraid, is about. I've never seen it.
Yeah, they're just afraid of getting their stuff in a rough spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving back along once more with the story that Christian, what do we learn about today? What magic rocket ship ride are you taking us on today?
We're going to take you to Mount St. Helens.
Nice.
That fateful day that it erupted.
And what?
Actually, let me read this and see if it works.
There you go. Go for it.
Today we're going to talk about that one time when the government disposed of dead Sasquatch. The very same time that the U.S. military worked with local Bigfoot to help the many creatures that were injured, in the same place that would be immortalized in Sasquatch lore after the Ape Canyon siege.
I've obviously heard of the Ape Canyon.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
We have.
And I knew we talked about it, but then because, from researching stuff and trying to find content that's interesting, we go through a lot, and I'm like, Ape Canyon, that's what it was called.
Yeah.
But I had to double check and look it up.
Have we done an episode on that, or have we just brought it up?
I think we've just brought it up.
Because that'd be a fun one. Maybe in season 3 we do that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's one we could talk about for a while. There's a lot of crazy details with that.
That one's a famous one.
Mm-hmm.
This next one we're going to talk about is not so famous.
Where Bigfoot helps the military?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's definitely not famous
or
to me.
even where Bigfoot died during the eruption of Mount St. Helens, which if there is a Bigfoot, more than likely they would be in this area.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, and if they were near this Mount St. Helens, they must have died. Some of them, because basically it's
an odds game. Yeah.
Yeah, human that was nearby there died. All the animals died in that region.
And look, according to a graphic you posted a while ago about Sasquatch sightings, there was millions in the area that could have possibly died. So, yeah.
So it makes sense. So, I don't know why I keep saying so. Anyway, you've heard this story before, right?
Ape Canyon or the St. Helens?
The one we're about to tell.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's even more fun.
Yeah.
How do I come up with some of these stories that you don't know about? Because I've done that a couple times. And
I was recently induced into the Bigfoot belief. Like not like so recent. It's been years, but I've never looked into it.
Okay.
As much as I was focused on like spirits and ghosts and whatnot.
But the Bigfoot thing, everything I've seen, that makes sense. Yeah. Kind of like before.
Bigfoot. When I heard about Bigfoot, I was like, when you first hear about Bigfoot, you're like, oh, that's the joke, right? Haha, Bigfoot, he exists. But then like when you hear actual stories of people that have seen these things, you're like, damn, maybe this thing exists. So you go from this like where you're like, haha, very funny, yes, Bigfoot. But then you hear the experiences and you're like, oh yeah, I guess Bigfoot is out there too. So that's creepy.
That's funny because I came about Bigfoot differently. I came as a kid believing instantly.
Yeah.
And being terrified to a certain extent. So,
and then you've developed into this Bigfoot beef jerky, more or less,
kind of. We've been branded. Step into the Slim Jim. Is that what it is? No,
Jack Links.
Okay, that's different. I was thinking the wrestler.
Yeah, you sure were.
All right. So Mount St. Helens erupted on May 18th, 1980, killing 57 people and destroying over 200 square miles of forest. Prior to the massive explosion that blew the top off the mountain.
They blew the top off that.
Yeah. I personally recall all the adults watching the nightly news to get updates on the awakening volcano that was Mount St. Helens. The scientists predicted its eruption was imminent, and locals vacillated between curiosity, fear, and distrust of the authorities. When it blew, even those that expected it were stunned. If you want to be shocked all over again, just pull up the footage on YouTube sometimes. It is crazy to see.
Yeah.
That was like the first recorded eruption, really, kind of.
Well, you know what terrifies me about like volcanoes these days is the people that say like if Yosemite were to erupt, it would pretty much cover us in nuclear winter for...
And Yellowstone.
That is the one they're talking about, right? Or what's Yosemite?
Yosemite, I think there's one there too. That's Mount Shasta's there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I got mixed up.
Yeah,
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is the one that would basically give us, it wouldn't be nuclear winter. It'd be
Just
like
dust, a cloud.
Stuff that's happened in past eruptions. Like when you hear about like Mount Vesuvius and a couple of others, it basically lowered the global temperatures and created famines and death and disease.
Yeah.
You know,
but
for
the
years
skies
after.
would also be dark for that long too, right? Like it would block out the sun for
it would locally, but it would lower because it would get into the atmosphere like all volcanoes do. And that kind of material in our atmosphere reflects the heat out and blocks the sun. So like stuff doesn't grow the way it used to. Crops are going to fail.
The more you know.
Yeah. So that is why volcanoes are one of the most terrifying natural occurrences, because it's going to occur.
Yeah.
It's just how bad it's going to be.
And where are you going to be if it does? Are you going to be alive? Is it going to be rough?
Yeah. One of the fun things, it's one of the interesting things, and this was years ago on HBO. It was a movie about the whole lead up to it.
Yeah.
And there was a scientist that was like pushing hard to make sure people were evacuated and stuff. And it took a long time. And then when it finally erupted, he was basically right on the side of the hill taking measurements.
Really? So he died?
I mean, they never found him.
So he just kind of...
I think he was radioing, okay, it's about to get me. And that was it.
Damn.
Because he was so close.
No, dude, you don't want to go out in a volcano eruption.
Yeah.
No, your bones just melt to dust, dude.
Yep.
It's like immediately disintegrated. Just,
that's pretty much. And I mean, you look at the footage of the trees in that region,
just like
the rivers were like just dark grayish with ash. And I mean, it was just ridiculous. And it was like, I remember as a child seeing this footage because it was so crazy in my child's mind.
Yeah. And you're like, this is cool.
Yeah. You know, when you're a child, volcanoes are cool.
Yeah.
And then you see this and you're like, okay, that's not very cool.
Yeah. It's all fun and games, a 6th grade science project. But the second it comes home, you're like, oh, no.
Well, and then you like later on, you hear about like what they've done through history.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, we digress.
Back to the story. Nearly 60 years before the eruption, an area at the base of the mountain named Ape Canyon would produce one of the most terrifying attacks by the legendary cryptid called Sasquatch. It was 1924, so we're going to touch on it a bit here.
Yeah.
It was 1924, and 2 miles east of Mount St. Helens, 5 miners fought off a nightmare attack by Bigfoot. They were working a gold claim and staying in a cabin they'd built to house them as they mined. The men endured an attack that kept them fighting for their lives until nearly daylight, but when they finally escaped. So, a little background to the area. Felt like for anybody that has looked into this Bigfoot lore, Sasquatch lore, even including a skeptical person like me,
probably familiar with that.
This one kind of feels credible almost.
Yeah.
The way it was described, the way the story lasted, and it felt real. And you could see something like that happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to 1980, following the eruption. We got some info from the Bigfoot Evidence blog coming up. An anonymous National Guardsman was called in after the eruption and would describe what he saw years after. He was with 5 other guardsmen when they reached a briefing in a tent surrounded by armed guards that were not part of the National Guard. At the briefing, they were told to keep quiet and forget everything, including the man talking to them.
And they said, what? Who are you?
Yeah. They were sent to a Jeep and told to wait. Later, another man who seemed to be a civilian showed up and came in another Jeep. He went into a tent, and when he emerged again, he was being accompanied by a large, hairy creature. The guardsman thought it was a large man covered in a suit of fur.
Which, obviously, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in this neck of the woods. One of the things he noticed on this furry creature. Realizing what it was, he noticed that it had suffered some burns. It was scary until the creature got close enough that they could look into its eyes, and they noticed that it was in a somber mood. It had a bandaged arm and soon got into the back of a pickup truck with the civilian. They spoke to each other in a language that was not recognized by the guardsmen. So already we just went down like, okay, this story is nuts.
Yeah. And if you want to maybe understand what that language could have sounded like, go check out the samurai sounds.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And we'll dig into that in one of our Bigfoot episodes as well, because that is a crazy story as well.
The samurai sound?
Yeah, I think it's Ron Moorhead and someone else in the woods. Like, and they apparently or allegedly recorded the sounds of what we can only assume were Sasquatch family of some kind. Right. And they've had language experts look at it and they're like, it's definitely language. Like they're talking to each other, but it's not English sped up. It's none of that. Like, yeah. It's weird. But also, I'm sure everyone that is hearing this right now is like, yeah, Scott, we know what the samurai sounds are. So we'll wait for that episode to come out with bated breath. As always, let's get back into this one.
Okay. The men followed the truck, stopping multiple points where they would follow the creature and the civilian to the mouth of a cave. The Bigfoot would make a sound and listen, which some of these things you're like, okay, I've heard something similar.
Yeah.
Including the language, because I've heard indigenous peoples of America talk about how they used to talk to the Bigfoot.
Yeah. We'll pull up that. Remind me when we get inside. We'll pull up that Samurai Sounds video. That's a good
okay. One. Okay. The first cave, they got no response. The second cave, after the sound was made, there was a response. 2 soldiers went in and soon emerged carrying a badly burned creature. The one they were with bent down and examined the creature before saying something to the civilian, who ordered everyone to the trucks. They walked away with the creature hearing a gunshot that must have put the burned creature out of his misery.
Sad.
Very sad.
A moment of silence for the burned creature in the story. I will remember you. Anyway, we continue.
In the arms of...
That works as well, yeah.
Nothing happened at the 3rd or 4th sites, and at the 5th site, 2 different soldiers brought out a creature with a burned leg. The guardsmen helped get him into a stretcher and into the truck, which returned to the base camp. Once returned, they were ordered to stay in the Jeep again until they were debriefed. When the Bigfoot that had been traveling with them started to go into a tent, it turned and waved to him.
Wholesome.
Which, like, yeah, it was...
See ya.
The guardsmen felt like it was like thanking them.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Remember, only you can prevent forest fires.
And say nothing of this incident.
Yeah.
At the debriefing, the men were surprised to not get the speech they were expecting.
Like, hey, you can't tell anyone about what you've seen?
Yeah, or your family,
Yeah.
Instead, it went something like, look, do you really want an explanation? You saw what we were doing. These creatures live in these areas. They mean no harm and want to be left alone. Do you really want to do anything that may cause them trouble? They're like us in a lot of ways. If you need or want to talk about this, just wait about 30 years. By that time, there will likely be no reason to keep them a secret.
But turns out there would be.
That is quite a dramatic speech, though. Like,
yeah.
We've been trained to hear this certain speech. And then when the guy in charge does that, you're like, oh.
Because he knows there's like no way to, and you're like, look, guys, obviously this is weird for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Just keep it under wraps for as many years as you can, then let loose. All
yeah.
right.
And it worked.
Yeah. Because anyone's going to hear this story and be like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So they could be flappy at the gums all day long. And guess what? No one's going to believe it anyway.
But they waited about 30 years before they mentioned it, which is
very
fascinating.
Nice. That is very nice.
Yeah.
Shout out.
In another area, the National Guard were collecting the bodies of dead animals so that they could later be burned. They were separated into different piles based on the type of animal. Deer in one pile, elk in another. But there was a covered pile, and when the tarp was removed, they found it was a bunch of Sasquatch bodies.
Sad.
When someone asked a person in charge what would be done with the bodies, he said something along the lines of someone would probably study them or something. He also said these are the type of things that you don't ask about. Later, a Freedom of Information Act was requested, but the reply came back that no bipedal carcasses were removed and that no cataloging and separation of dead animals like the deer or elk took place, which is the classic response.
Likely story. Like they're gonna be like, "Oh man, you caught us." Yeah, we got Sasquatch over there, tons of them.
We're and in real things, it's blacked out because it's national security.
We're up to our hips in Sasquatch carcasses. Good.
Yeah.
I was hoping someone would call us out on that.
Yep. It is reported that 57 of the creatures perished and were recovered after the eruption. There are reports of 2 instances from a book by an author named Suchi that say 2 months after the eruption, during the dredging of a river, 2 more bodies were found in the sand. Also, an observer saw a large 2-rotor helicopter carrying a large net filled with Sasquatch.
Oh, he got choked up. Sorry, everyone. It's a very sad story.
I was trying to get through that sentence before.
It was with a Sasquatch.
Also, an observer saw a large 2-rotor helicopter carrying a large net filled with Sasquatch bodies to a nearby military base.
For the remainder of the episode, let's call him Sad Squatch, because this is a sad story.
Sad Squatch.
Sad Squatch.
Yes. Could you imagine? The real Sad Squatch was the one that waved to the men and basically kneeled over his buddy and said, "Okay, you must shoot him in the head to put him out of his misery."
That is a Sad Squatch.
That is 1950s America almost, but
and also
in the 80s.
Yeah, 1980s Sad Squatch.
Can't wait to see the meme you come up with for this episode.
It's going to take some time. Maybe some merch of a crying Bigfoot. Sad Squatch.
So speaking of Sad Squatch, could this be true, Scott? Or is this just a tall tale from the hotbed of suspected Bigfoot sightings? What do you feel?
Well, first of all, where did we get this story from? Where did it come from?
The internet.
Oh, you just like a random blog somewhere?
I've seen it a couple times.
Really?
Yeah, so then I just searched for it.
Interesting.
To get some information to write that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've never heard that story before, but I certainly wouldn't put it past there being Sasquatch in the area during the Mount St. Helens eruption. So it's very likely that something like that could have taken place. Whether or not the government had any hand in helping them or carrying baskets or whatever, their dead bodies across places with helicopters, I couldn't say. I couldn't touch on that for sure, but creepy.
I would be actually, out of many of the government secrets that are out there, this one would make me really mad if it was true that they just hid it from us. I could understand hiding aliens and weird stuff like that from us, but to know about this creature and
just hide it from the public.
Yeah, like what's the real use?
Well, you don't think people would lose their minds if they found out that there was a, ape man that lived out in the middle of the woods that could get you wherever you are? That was a very predatory apex type of dude.
But they're not always predatory.
Not always.
It depends on the regions. Like Alaska sounds very predatory.
Yeah.
But this region, the Pacific Northwest, they're just, you don't hear as many of the scary stories from this region. You hear a lot of like stories about, oh, I just saw them or they were helping.
Yeah.
Like the one we told where the lady tripped and fell down a little hill and broke her ankle and the one carried her back, and that kind of stuff you hear more of in this region.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, Wes Germer's story is from the Pacific Northwest, and that was pretty aggressive too. Like, it could just be like people where sometimes you get nice ones that don't want to rip your limb from limb and, shove your head on a pike. But then there's others that are like, hey, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
No hard feelings, but this has to happen.
Get off my damn mountain, kids.
Yeah. Probably something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's one of the crazier stories I've heard.
Yeah.
But there's like little tidbits in there that almost make it like, I could almost see this happening.
Yeah. I can absolutely see this happening. And I know this because I was there. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't, obviously. But that's a good story, though. Yeah. That's the first time I've heard it, surprisingly. But again, like I said, most of my life I was fascinated with paranormal shit because I experienced paranormal shit. And so I didn't get into the whole cryptids and the idea of cryptozoology or anything like that until probably late teens.
Okay.
And then from there, it's not like I was out looking for Bigfoot or anything. I just was like, oh, Bigfoot, big hairy ape man. And you hear a few podcasts, you're like, maybe it's more than a big hairy ape man. And now here we are,
When you're here in Alaska, probably more so than when we lived in California, you can like look around you and be like,
there's a bunch of big
I totally would not see one around me.
Yeah.
It could be 20 feet from me and I wouldn't see it.
Well, that trail that China wants to take you guys on this weekend, I think Sunday. Yeah, that one's in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Where you drive out to past all the rich people houses and you're like, what the hell? People live really great out here.
Yeah.
And then you find this trail that's literally just in the woods. And as you're walking it, man, I was looking left and right constantly because it seemed like the type of place you'd either see a Bigfoot randomly standing next to a tree or you see a grizzly bear when it's too late and he's already mauling you.
I would, in most cases, rather see a Bigfoot than a bear.
I would absolutely agree with you. Yeah. And I hope that is the case. I hope you and I have that experience together, Christian, so that we can just look at each other one last time and be like, I guess it's real. And then none of our listeners
we
are ever
wouldn't say that. You'd look at me and like, say it now before we die.
I'd be like, I'm recording. People are going to hear this. Say it.
Yeah.
You say those words.
You're right, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I got it right here.
Yeah.
So just hold on to that. Scott,
that one was kind of a comedic. You were right. The one you would hear at that point would be just anger.
Yeah.
Not even fear of death. I'd be like, I'm going out with this, my last words.
Yeah. We're going to fight this Bigfoot. Yeah.
Damn it, Scott. You're right.
Yeah. And that's the clip I'm going to use. Scott, cut that out as well. That's the clip I'm going to use for whenever I go on like a really long tangent.
Yeah.
And then to close off the tangent, it's going to be you saying, damn it, Scott, you're right. And then we're just going to continue with what we're saying.
It's also something
It'll be smooth.
That when you dream at night, that'll be like one of your good dreams, is hearing me echoing in your mind.
You were right. You were right. You were right. About everything, even demons.
Yeah, what kind of song is he going to make about what he's saying? Damn it, Scott, you're right.
I know. Yeah. Speaking of, I need to work on that season 3 intro music. I want to get like a custom intro for us that isn't just dubstep music for 2 minutes or whatever. And people hate change, especially in this community. So it's probably not going to be super into it, but you're going to learn to love it. I'm going to try to work it into being something great. And even though I have no idea what I'm doing, it's going to be very on point and on brand.
Just throw a couple Easter eggs in there.
Yeah.
To where you're rewarded for actually listening.
Yeah.
Ooh, he just said this without saying it.
Wow. And they're going to be like, oh, no, he didn't. But we're going to be like, yeah, we actually did. We did.
The crowd will cheer. Scott is so brilliant.
Yeah, they will. And if they're not chanting it right now at their desks, home offices, or school buses, or also, I guess, maybe cars, vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gas and electric types still.
Yeah, probably not gas anymore. Everyone's, rollerblading into work these days with the inflation and gas prices being so dang high. They're so dang high. Anyway, you guys aren't here for that. We didn't mention it early on, but this is actually the finale of Summer Break. This is the final episode of Summer Break for season 2. It was fun.
Come to Summer Break. Christian will tell Bigfoot stories.
Yeah. You know what we need to do? What I should have done for this summer break, but I'll do it next year. I'll design like a camp shirt, like a classic 80s horror movie camp style t-shirt for Camp Freaky Deaky.
Yep.
And that's what Summer Break will be. But this year, the finale is Bigfoot. We love talking about the big hairy guy, and well, damn it, it's good to end on something that I haven't heard. So it's rare these days. There's not going to be an episode. Season 3 does not start next week. There's going to be radio silence for a whole week. You guys aren't going to get the Freaky Deaky. I don't know what you're going to do.
But Scott says that now, but I have other plans.
Yeah, he'll post something. He'll post why he talks about Marvel and Disney all day long. The season 3 will be starting the following week, though. So we're taking a week off. And then the following week is when season 3 launches. So, you might as well mark your calendars now. Tell your friends. Get everyone hyped. Maybe we do some giveaways. Maybe we give away some merch or something. Some sticker packs. I don't know. Whatever you guys want. Comment what you want us to give you. I'm going to design some cool canvas shoes.
We got extra bunnies.
We have extra bunnies if you want me to send you one of the house bunnies. Oops, that sounds more Playboy-ish than what is actually happening. We have house rabbits that are around the house constantly, all the time. If you want one of these house bunnies, it's outside the house bunnies. You know what? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
A yard bunny, man. It's
the
a yard bunny.
That's right. It's not in the house. The yard bunnies. And you know what?
It's exactly what you're picturing.
Yeah. And this is exactly what you were picturing when you heard that we were going to try to close out an episode. So this is the finale for the summer. Great story, Christian. We're going to touch on more Bigfoot and all things freaky and unexplained in a couple short weeks at the start of season 3. So make sure you're following us on social media so you know when that launches. And that's going to be at Freaky Deaky Pod on Facebook and Instagram. Comment, say you're new, say you enjoy the show. Tell us your thoughts. We love hearing from you guys. If you're on TikTok, it's at TFD Paranormal. And if you have a story of your own that you would like to hear shared on the share. If you guys have a story of your own that you want to hear shared on the show, whether that be anonymous or blasting your name out there for all 5 people to hear. You write into the gang at thefreakydeaky.com that experience, and we will be in touch with you very shortly.
Don't forget our season 3 giveaway. One lucky winner will get one of Scott's shadow people.
That's right. I'm giving it away for free. Anyway, but wait, there's less. That's the end of the episode. See you later. Thanks for listening. Hope you had a fun summer. Winter is coming. God help us all. Season 3 is right around the corner. We'll see you guys there. Deuces. Really dragged that one out. I just didn't want summer to end.